What areas of interest do you think these investors would look out for in Nigeria? I know we've had a series of investments, but going forward, as more interest has now been shown to the Nigerian economy, what areas do you think that they should look into?
Honestly speaking, I'm looking at mining. This is money spinning area, industry, but we're not looking at it. Mining is a I mean, look at South Africa, what's going on there, even in Zimbabwe lately. All these areas, we're looking at it, not really being serious with it. You know, oil and gas, real estate is known. I mean, the banking industry, everything is known. Everybody wants to come into that. Let's begin to look. When people talk about tourism, we are not really prepared for tourism here. I mean, in Gambia, that's what they live on. And there's a street, even in Gambia, that day and night, 24 hours, they even have tourism police. So now everybody keeps talking about tourism. How do you promote tourism when you don't have, you know, places like an island? For instance, go to Seychelles, go to, you know, Maldives. They have separate islands. Good thing about Maldives, for instance, you know, this is an Islamic nation where you don't drink alcohol or whatever, but they have separate many islands. Separated, you know, in all those places where people invest and they spend a lot of money. We have a lot of islands there. What are we doing? We're trying to build houses on this island, private homes. So how do you promote tourism when you are building private homes and estates in all those places? We need places. Tourism cannot be boosted because you have hotels springing up all over the place. That's not tourism. We are just doing hospitality business. Call it that way. But tourism means from the airport, you know, there's a desk, there are a lot of things. Look at art. For instance, we have beautiful arts and crafts that we can really sell to the people, so we are not really exporting them. I think the most important thing is let's look at the mining industry, let's look at the agricultural industry. Fishing, I still repeat that. You know, it is not just to have tubers of yams and all that. Do you know that we still import pineapple from the neighboring country? So what's all this? We don't really have, we have to be focused, despite the fact that people talk about transformation or whatever you call it, but I'm telling you about fishing as an industry itself can really generate much more than what we're looking into. The agricultural development for the youths has to be changed. It is not just telling them to go and take the hoes and cutlasses and become a farmer. So we have to make sure that the agricultural program is redefined. And then we begin to look at it and say, listen, this is good for us, and this is what we're going to do. Let's focus on 2 or 3 areas and begin to say, look, come into this area as our top 10, and let's say, these are the area, this top 5 is the area we want, and every other area, we consider it as add-ons. But we have to identify these areas carefully.
Let's look at the issue of gender.
Yes.
When we talk foreign direct investment, it seems that women, attention has now been placed on employing women, the involvement of women in economic development. How does that apply to FDI?
You know, basically most of the companies that will be coming here, they have these, they're gender sensitive. Most countries now are gender sensitive. Excuse me, in some countries you even have a rule that your management, your board must constitute maybe 30%, 40% of women in it. And that's a good thing. And Nigeria is not out of this world. We belong to the global world, and I think those guys who might be coming, the investors that might be coming, they understand it. And I tell you what, we have brilliant Nigerian women here who can really take up this responsibility. So there shouldn't be any cause for alarm regarding that. We have brilliant women who are up to the task, and it's just that we have to enforce it. We have to, like, that's what I said, we have to create an avenue for all these things that, listen, if you are coming from your home country, whatever they are doing out there, please, you have to practice. If you said, listen, 5 or 10% of management should be women in your country, the same thing applies there. You don't come to Nigeria and change the rule because this is, I mean, you can do anything you like. No, we have to know where you're coming from, what obtains there.
Do we enforce such laws here in Nigeria?
We should. I mean, as much as I think this is a free market economy, but we should be able to follow up on that. I mean, otherwise, we'll be having this advantage. If you just come into this country and do what you like, because you are bringing your money, I will give you all the access to circle. Come with your money, we need it, yes, but you need us as well. And we have to set the rules. And this is why our ministries or our agencies have to be very focused on that. You know, when you are coming in right from the embassy of Nigeria in whatever country or whichever country you are coming from, all these things, there should be an economic desk where somebody will advise you of what obtains. He knows your company from where you are coming. He has understudied that, and he's telling you this is what we expect you to do in Nigeria. But unfortunately, I don't know how it operates right now, whereby we have the economic desk of people advising you what you have to do when you get to Nigeria and how to go about it.
On the issue of environment, it seems that has been a challenge for foreign companies. Take, for instance, oil companies who have been operating. Some of them have said to have degraded the environment, and that has led to many lawsuits and billions of dollars, as the case may be. How do you think we can help the environment, even if a country comes into mine, for instance, like you said? How should we protect ourselves? We want money, yes, but we also need to protect ourselves so that at the end of the day, we don't leave the environment worse than it was met.
Well, I think our justice system, something is wrong somewhere. But I believe we have rules for all this. We have laws that guide all this we're talking about. The lawsuits you mentioned, you realize that most of the judgments are not to our own disadvantage, it's to our own advantage. And then the rulings are not from Nigerian courts. I mean, if you look at Shell and some other companies, the rulings are obtained abroad. So what does that mean? Does it mean that our justice system has failed us? Maybe. Does it mean that somebody is not enforcing the rules? Yes, maybe. Who are those people responsible? Can't we get them and tell them, listen, if these guys can go to UK or the Netherlands to get judgment, what are we doing? Or is this somebody who is backing them up and saying, listen, don't worry, nothing can happen to you as long as you play my own ball? So these are the things we have to look into. The system is corrupt. And that is why we have everybody doing what they like and going away with it. I mean, a situation whereby you have some individuals, policemen guiding them, holding umbrellas, I mean, to give them shield and all that. So these are things we have to do. Does that operate there? No. So we have to begin to enforce the rules. The rules are there. I'm very sure the rules are there, but the enforcement of the rule is where we really have to look into. And if there's going to be an agency to monitor and enforce it, maybe the private sector have to set up such agency and to help the federal government as well.
On the other hand, I think that the host community also has a lot to benefit.
Yeah, sure, but you know the host community,
foreign company operating in the environment.
That's the problem with the host community as well. You know, this is when we talk about corruption and whatever. It is not just at the federal government level. It's at the bottom as well. It's at the local level. Well, these guys, they understand. That's why they will always have somebody who understands the terrain, who understands the mentality of the people. You call the chiefs and the obas and whatever and say, listen, your son has to go to the university in London, and send one of them to university in the UK or US, and the guy keeps quiet. So he doesn't want to talk again about the environmental pollution. And you know, this has been a long-term issue, and it is now interesting that people are looking up to the government to enforce some of this thing, because it is a shame for us to get good rulings, a judgment that affects the Nigerians abroad, and then we can't get that kind of judgment in our own land. That's a shame.
As we wind down on the program, I'd like us to just, very briefly, look at government revenue that can be accrued from foreign direct investment. What advantage do we have in that respect?
Ideally, this is one of the reasons why the government is encouraging FDI and to encourage foreign investors to come into it, because they know that, I mean, you can give them leverages. Okay, maybe you say, you know, the first 2 years you have this tax freedom.
Tax holiday.
Yes, but then at the same time, we shouldn't just give someone tax holiday for 5 years and we're not monitoring that. We can start gradually. If you employ maybe 100 people or 5,000 people, depending on the scope, if you do this, these are the kind of tax holidays you will have. If you keep these people for the next 5 years, it is not just as, okay, if you employ 500 and the guy employs 500 and after 6 months he throws out 300. We have to put the rules there. If you employ,
so the labor laws must be very effective.
Must be very effective and well controlled. Then you have the federal inland revenue who will monitor how much do you bring into the country. You are bringing in $50 million, and we know that this $50 million you've invested, you are bringing another one. How much are you bringing in within the next 3 or 4 years, so that we'll be able to calculate what is accruing to us or what we accrue to us in the next 5 years. So all these things have to be put in place. And like I said, I think there should be some agencies or some kind of committees within the private sector to monitor this. Otherwise, they will come in and disorganize what is in existence. We have seen it in some areas whereby these guys just come in, the inland revenue guys goes in there. A guy was telling me like this, all he needs to do is just to give the guy something and he will not come for the next 6 months. So they understand us better now that this is what obtained.
So we must deal with the issue of corruption then.
Everywhere.
And other things that could hinder the growth of the economy, and it starts with everybody.
Sure.
Not just the government.
Sure.
Thank you, Joe Femi Dagunro. Thank you for your time. That'll be all we can take from you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Joe Femi Dagunro is an economic analyst and CEO, Westphalia Resources. We've been talking about foreign direct investment in Nigeria. How can we benefit from it? How can we also ensure that we protect the economy, even if we want foreigners to come and put their money in it? what laws are we putting in place to ensure that we protect our citizens and, of course, the environment? So many other issues that were discussed on the program. I want to thank everyone out there for taking time to be with us on the show. Thank you for your time. We hope you join us again same time tomorrow. Thank you for watching. I am Bolaji Akinwale.